Welcome into another edition of Sport Ball. It's your boy Sam. With me, as always, are Seth and Kyle. And today is a very special day because we have guest Nick Hornell in the house. Nick, how you doing?
I'm good, guys. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, damn right it is.
Count yourself lucky.
We have 5 to 6 listeners per podcast, so I would think it would be an honor. And you're one of
You
them.
guys have doubled your listenership since I was last here?
Yeah. Why are you asking? Maybe Matt listens twice. I don't know. So we called Nick in for a very special reason, in that he wanted us to do. Nick, why don't you describe?
He called us, really?
Yeah. Why don't you describe your idea for the listeners?
Sure. So we've all been talking a lot about the playoffs as they're going on, and basically at the very start of it, I was curious where we all stood on certain players, and so I had this idea of if you were just drafting now, and like a lot of the times when we draft teams, we think about like, oh, you have to win a whole season or something like that, or you know, you're gonna have this player for the next 10 years. But if we were trying to make a playoff run now and win a title, like what would the top guys look like? Who would you want on your team? It's like, you know, someone like Jimmy Butler or something like that. I don't know if he's the cornerstone of a franchise, but I want him on my team in a playoff. So
For sure. And we're trying to think of what we could do to kind of make these not just all-star teams with all the star players. And what we came up with, or Seth came up with while he was biking, which is where he gets most of his inspiration, I would say.
Nearly all of it. Biking or in the shower.
Yeah. Sometimes you're biking in the shower.
Yeah. Or showering on my bike.
So the idea was to assign dollar values to each player and give us a budget. So basically we decided $24 to spend on 8 roster spots, which will be your starting 5 and 3 bench players. Usually usually you don't use more than 8 in the playoffs, we would say.
And we've divided all the NBA players into tiers. The most expensive tier is $7. So that's Giannis, Kawhi, KD, and LeBron. And then we've got all the rest of the tiers, and then $1 player is anyone who's not already listed on the sheet. So I'm not going to read out the whole list, but you'll get the idea.
We should mention that if you draft Mario Hezonja or Hassan Whiteside or Carmelo, you get $1 back, which is just a value you can't pass up.
amazing that all those guys are Trailblazers.
Yeah.
That's why the Blazers lost.
Right.
And we're also assuming that all players are currently healthy, so we're pretending Kevin Durant fully is recovered from his Achilles. Kristaps Porzingis is healthy in this imaginary world, but we are factoring in their injury proneness in case something could happen during your playoff run.
Kyle, anything to add?
You guys explained it perfectly.
Thanks, Kyle.
Wow, it's the first time Kyle's agreed with me. All right. Well, I think we should just dive in. If we seem a little distracted, it's because we're also watching Game 7 of Jazz Nuggets, so full disclosure to the listeners.
But it'll be halftime soon. So.
Yeah. So we did randomize the draft before this podcast, and I got the number 1 pick because Siri realized that I deserved it.
How convenient.
And Seth is number 2, Kyle is number 3, and Nick is last, which he deserves. And we will be doing a snake draft. So let's just jump in. We need to name this though, right? Like what is this? The playoff draft? What is this?
Playoff auction extravaganza.
Good. P for short. All right. Well, I have the first pick, and I was kind of thinking, I mean, would it be
He's already rattled.
Okay, I'll tell you who I'm not taking, and that's Giannis. And I know that I was just talking to Kyle about this on the ride over while I was weaving in and out of traffic while also drafting on my phone. And I feel like we all agree that Giannis is one of the best players in the league, but we just have some reservations about his ability to create the best shot possible in crunch time in a playoff game, right? Because he can't shoot very well from the outside.
I mean, even I have questions if he's like above average in the last minute of a playoff game. Right?
Yeah.
So far, he's not been. So I mean,
that's fair.
He's a one-trick pony.
I mean, I have reservations if I'd rather have him or Mario at that point. So,
so with the overall pick,
I
Sam
mean,
Spice flex Mario Hezonja.
I could start out with negative $1 in my budget. I mean,
Start out with $25.
yeah.
In that first game against the Heat, there was a possession, I think it was in the fourth quarter, where they came down and he was taking the ball like down the court, and he just took like a pull-up three with that like high teens in the shot clock. And I've talked to you guys about before, again, like guys who I think it's going to go in or guys who I think it don't, and pretty much every player falls into one category.
Yeah.
This is anywhere but like 5 feet around the rim. I just don't think it's going in.
Yeah.
It might be a little harsh, but
I don't know what it is about Giannis's three-point shot, but I feel like he flicks his wrist, but the ball stays still for a second before it actually moves. Like his wrist is done being flicked, and then the ball is still just sitting there for a second before. It's really weird. I don't know what it is about his shot. It's ass. I mean,
it also like it looks like Sam can vouch for this. In college, whenever I would shoot, I would have to put all my energy behind a shot to get it to barely make it to the rim. And when Giannis takes jumpers, I feel like that's what it looks like. He's put so much into it to get it to just get there.
Yeah.
Quick interruption. Jamal Murray's injured.
Wow. That's big because
he took a knee to a thigh.
because I'm not sure who I'd rather take, Jamal or Michael Jordan at this point.
The Messiah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to take Giannis with the first pick overall, even though he will be the reigning MVP. I think you can make a case for number one at Kawhi if you're going to pick a $7 player, right, which are the elite, most expensive players. You can make a case for LeBron, for Kawhi, and for KD. I hesitate to not pick LeBron because when all the chips fall, I just feel like I'd still rather have him. But I do also feel like Kawhi may have surpassed him in this. So
the question remains, have the chips fallen or not?
The thing is, I threw the chips a couple hours ago and they haven't landed yet. So
we should have told Siri how long you were going to take before.
This is the biggest decision of the whole draft.
Is it though?
No, there will be several better decisions. I mean, the thing is, if I leave without LeBron, I'm going to be upset, aren't I?
Right. So thank you for this whole roundabout way.
We all knew he was going to take LeBron from the beginning.
All right, give me LeBron for $7. I mean, I'm going to take Mario for -1 next, so I'll still be at 6, basically.
So does that leave you with $17 remaining for 7 players?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is it 23 we started with or 24?
24.
All
right, Seth, you're up next.
So,
Let me just grab over my beer here now that I picked LeBron and celebrate.
So I'm between two players. One is Kawhi, who we talked about. He would be my top overall pick, but is he the best value is the question. And there's someone else who I think maybe just gives me a little bit more of something unique that I want. And I think I might be able to replace some of the things that Kawhi does. But could I is the question. And maybe, screw it. This is my strategy that I decided
You're
on
gonna take
before
Luka,
him.
aren't you?
So I'm going to take Anthony Davis for $6. He's in the second tier. I think having the versatility that AD brings from your 5 position, there aren't very many players in the league who have that versatility offensively and defensively. I think Giannis is like the only defender who's on par with AD, but AD like has the ability to make a jump shot down the stretch, and Giannis really doesn't. So I think cornerstone of my team being AD gives me a lot of flexibility. I don't have to worry about like having a big who can't make outside shots or having a really small lineup and then getting bullied by somebody in the post.
So you're going to force AD to play the center position?
AD will play the 5, yeah.
He does not like that.
That's okay. He'll deal.
Let me ask you, Seth.
Quam will make him.
Let me ask you if you feel any reservations of taking Anthony Davis number 1 when he's never made it out of the first round before. This is, after all, a playoff. This is a playoff.
He's actually in the second round now.
Right.
That's true.
So he has made it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he also made it out of the first round another time with the Pelicans, didn't he? Didn't they won that? They upset somebody. Remember that?
They
Anyway,
swept the Blazers.
yeah, the
Oh
Blazers.
yeah, that's right. Okay,
So-
well, let me rephrase that then to hasn't had any deep runs in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. I think he just hasn't had the right team. If you look at his stats in the playoffs, it's not like he honestly elevates from his play in the regular season. And especially in a draft like this, I'm going to have other players who are going to like run the offense and everything. So it's not like the burden will all be on AD anyways. So no, I don't have any reservations.
Let me ask you another follow-up.
Please do.
There has been some questions about AD also down the stretch of playoff games where obviously he's a big man and sometimes his game doesn't quite translate to crunch time scoring. We always know we want those players who can score in isolation from anywhere on the court. So are you just hoping to grab another one of those players with your next pick?
Yeah, I think there's
Just
enough.
tell us your whole strategy.
I think there's enough isolation scorers where I don't necessarily need one with my first pick, and I also think AD can score in isolation. So, I mean, give him the ball on the elbow. There's not many players who can guard him, so I'm not worried about that at all.
I think that's fair. I think the interesting thing about Seth's team then will be to see if he can get someone who can like get the ball to AD in those situations, because it makes me think a little bit like the Sixers when they lost Ben Simmons this year. With like Joel Embiid, he can get those buckets, but they couldn't find anyone to get him an entry pass.
Right. And you have to make
Obviously,
sure.
we're drafting the best players here, and Seth will find someone, but I think that's key
Yeah.
to me, even with AD, that you get someone who can get him an entry pass and get him a shot.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you need shooting around him too. But I think that's a solid pick. Kyle, it comes to you next.
Easy. Didn't really need to think about it. I was worried Seth was going to take him, but the number 3 pick in the P draft,
Gotta be Luka or
the
Harden.
Matador, El Matador, Cool Hand, the Don, Wonder Boy, El Nino Maravilla, Swaggy L, Luka Legend, Too Easy, Luka Doncic.
I'm sorry, someone calls him Swaggy L.
That's what Basketball Reference has listed as a nickname, so I'm going to go with it for now.
I honestly thought about taking him first, even
Can
though
someone translate El Nino Maravilla to me, though?
Red
The
Storm?
something kid?
Oh, yeah.
The Wonder Kid?
I was I mean, I know I didn't say it during my long monologue, but I did consider taking him at 1.
He should have been taken at 1.
Yeah, I think he's an incredible value because he's not $7, and I would gladly have taken him at 1. But
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I've talked about it before. I really don't care too much about having like a defensive stud as the, the backbone of my team, I guess. Like, when it comes down to it, it would be surprising. Basketball's a team sport, and if the rest of the team, he's an average, I'd say, defender. He's not great. He's not terrible. So you spread that around, and I don't think it's any surprise that my team's probably going to look similar in style to the Rockets, because that's just my favorite team, right? So any player could switch and guard any other position, and that's kind of what I value. And I really value more the offensive ability of Luka, not only shooting and creating his own shot, but the way he can create shots for everyone else on his team. I just think that's way too valuable of a player to pass up on.
I think that we were talking about this in the car too, actually, that if I were starting a franchise today, I would take Luka. That would be my number 1 pick over Giannis, over Zion, any other young player you want to say. But for this exercise, I decided not to take Luka number 1 because, I mean, whether it's unfair or not, I haven't seen it yet, right? I mean, obviously we project that we think that he'll be be a perennial MVP candidate. Matt just walked in the room. Hey, Matt. He's our only fan, so it's fitting that he's here.
we're basically doing a live show.
We're screwed now, though, because our views and listens are going to go way down this week.
Getting a live performance. Didn't even pay for it.
Yeah, we have our 2 listeners here on the pod. What I was going to say was, although I would pick him if I was starting a franchise, for this playoff exercise this year, obviously I haven't seen Luka make a finals yet, and LeBron makes the finals every year.
I mean,
So although LeBron is much older, of course, and we're not sure if he maybe has lost that first step, he made the finals 8 years in a row. So I think I want that on my team over Luka, who didn't make it out of the first round, which of course we think is because of the team around him, but I just haven't seen it yet, you know?
I think that's fair. I'm
I
excited.
don't care really about making it out of the first round. He averaged 31, 10, and 9 in his first ever playoffs.
I mean, LeBron certainly put up those numbers before. I mean,
Luka outdid him in every category in their first playoffs.
Yeah, but
He's already the second best player of all time.
But I'm taking LeBron right now. So,
El Niño Meravillo.
Nick, what were you gonna say?
I lost it, and that's very unprofessional of me, but I lost it.
That's it. You'll never come back on this podcast.
No mistake. We have a zero tolerance policy.
All right, so we just got back-to-back picks now. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
what
I
do you
really hope
think
he
of-
doesn't pick my guy.
Well, Kyle's guy's
Oh,
hard.
so
So if you want to fuck him, you'll take Harden.
yeah, for real. So I didn't have a lot of prep for this. I wish we could have done many of these so I could see does taking a $7 player screw you over when you get to the later rounds?
Yeah.
No. But to me, I said to myself, just talking to myself,
So
I said from the beginning that I was not going to take a $7 player because I think that'll hamstring me later. So I want to take a $6 player, and the ones that are still left on the board here, I'm not going to go Sam level monologue, but I'll tick off the ones I'm not taking. So I'm not taking James Harden, chemistry thing, and also I couldn't do that to Kyle. But I just don't want him necessarily running my team because I don't want to have to build my team around him, which I do think to enable him to have that much success, I would have to pick all my players to fit him.
Yeah.
For Jokic is another $6 player here, and I just don't want my highest paid player to be someone who is not the one carrying me in a playoff series, and we're literally watching him right now not be the one carrying his team in the series.
yeah,
Right.
And then the last one that I'm not picking is Damian Lillard, and that's kind of because it's not because he's not clutch. It's not because I don't believe in him. It's just I don't think he's going to give me virtually anything on the defensive end when it's crunch time. So I'm going to take the last $6 player here because I think I can build any type of team around him, and that's Steph Curry. I feel like a lot of people just recency bias and stuff are just forgetting how effective Curry can be, and I like the fact that he's a leader, but he's not a ball hog. He can pass, he'll play defense, and he's one of the greatest he's the greatest shooter of all time. So I think I'm getting a pretty good deal with him for $6.
Don't you think you would get a better value by taking the superior brother?
Oh, that's a great point. Well,
Seth would have
when
gone
you
to
know, my second pick. No, I'm just kidding.
We mentioned that Kyle in our basketball group chat gave what is the worst take probably in the history of mankind.
It's not a bad take.
At least in the history of our chat. And he said that, and I quote, "I think that Seth Curry is the better brother. He just wasn't given the same opportunities." As if he
I
didn't.
stick to it. Look
He
at the
went to
numbers.
Duke, made the NBA, is on the Mavericks, he can't even start. I don't know what opportunities you're talking about.
and then he criticizes me for saying Chris Paul is better in the clutch than James Harden, which he clearly is.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
for
no,
this
no,
exercise,
but I probably
we're
did.
talking about winning a playoff this year, and Seth Curry was in the playoffs, and Steph was not. So,
That's a great point, Nick.
not wrong.
I'm glad you brought up Steph, though, because I do feel like people have been – I think Damian has dominated the conversation in the bubble, and people are saying that he's better than Steph right now. And
I've been saying it for
while
at
I
least a
think
year.
that's not a crazy thing to say, because Kyle already said it, and so that does make it crazy maybe. But I do think that I would still rather have Steph, and I think that he's a little slept on. I mean, I do print out a picture of him and sleep on him every night, but I know other people are as well.
Yeah, I think there's just so little, to me, difference between the two of them. It's just I think Steph will give a little bit more on the defensive end, and I also think he's a little bit better off ball. So if I take someone who's like a wing, who's a ball-dominant guy, and you'll see with my next pick who I'm taking, but I think he'll just pair better with that player than Damian would. But so that brings me to my second pick, which I was tossing two guys back and forth, and that's going to be devastated here. But I'm going to take Jason Tatum with my second pick.
Knew it.
Smart pick.
I just
I think,
whispered Sam's ear.
He did.
Yeah.
I got aroused.
I think Tatum will just pair really well with Curry. I think Curry will be able to get him the ball. He'll also be able to play off of Tatum. And then I think Tatum, this playoffs especially, has just shown what a unique defender he is. And he's also just a clutch scorer. So at this point, yeah, I'll roll with Curry and Tatum and figure the rest out later.
Yeah, nice.
I like that. Those are two value picks, I think. And
Kyle, you're
Jason,
up.
I mean,
shit,
this
I'm up.
is
We can keep talking.
well. I was just gonna say this is only his second playoffs, and he's. I mean, he just scored over 30 today. He's
Third playoff.
It is his third, yeah. But I mean, he's been great in the playoffs every time. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm obviously pleased how he's performing so far. And Nick, you were talking about how he's become one of those players where every time he shoots, you think it's going in. And yeah, I feel just very confident anytime he has the ball that he'll be able to create a good shot, and he stopped settling for those mid-range jumpers, and he got better at them when he does take them. So, yeah, good pick.
Okay, so this is a snake. Therefore, I get the next pick on the snake.
This is a tough one. Very tough. And I think my next pick is going to surprise a lot of you.
If it's not James Harden, I'm surprised. So. I guess you already have a Luka, which is the better James Harden. So.
And I can't decide because I really want to draft James.
Do you think that is?
Do I think he's going to fall to me? He might.
No, all of us hate James Harden, so maybe.
He might fall to me, one. And two, the other player will probably fall to me too. So I don't know how much I want to put myself in a bind, though.
Dennis Schroeder?
By picking, I mean, I guess it's only $1. So
Mario?
I think what I'm going to do here is go with none other than Jimmy the Butt Butler.
Jimmy the Butt.
I was debating him or Tatum.
I obviously we know how good Jimmy can be, and we all watched that game the other day against Milwaukee, and he showed us how good he could be. He dropped 42 points or something. But I think him kind of having the ability to play off ball with Luka and especially like his defense. I know I say I don't really care about him, but
your second player though. You're saying you need
right. And I think he could definitely pick up the slack of the defense that Luka might not be able to do. So Jimmy, you could put on any team's alpha and feel confident that he's going to lock him down. He showed the other day down the stretch, whatever. If you're going to force players to not take threes, he's going to hit the mid-range. If Luka's driving to the rim, I'm confident in Jimmy hitting the open three. I just think he on both ends of the floor, he's one of the best players in the NBA in that aspect.
I think it's interesting with Jimmy. I feel like he's the perfect player kind of for this exercise because in the regular season, he couldn't shoot the three ball at all. He's like one of the worst high-volume free shooters in history. But so far, especially in crunch time, it's like I'm cheering for the Bucks, and I'm worried when Jimmy Butler gets the ball. So that tells you something. So
and he'd be a great fit for the real life Mavs next to Luka. I mean, he's like Dorian Finney-Smith if he was 100 times better.
That's true.
And Dorian Finney-Smith is 3 people, so that's when you know. And I also feel like the ironic part is he is a perfect fit for Philly, and that just didn't work out because he hated the coach and the players. But he's a great second or third star because he doesn't need the ball all the time, but if he gets it, like you feel confident with him scoring in crunch time, and he's a lead defender. So I think that's a great fit for Powell.
Just because they went back to back, and we were alluding earlier before the pod, we were talking about what do we think the most interesting Eastern Conference Finals would be to watch. If Boston played Miami, do you guys think Tatum and Butler actually like defend each other, or do you think they would someone else?
I wonder if they would put Bam on Tatum.
They wouldn't put Bam on. They might actually. They would probably.
Would Marcus guard Butler, like Marcus Smart?
Yeah, maybe. And I wonder if Butler would guard Jalen.
I think they would put Marcus Smart on Jimmy. Yeah, they'd probably they'd have to keep Tice on Bam. Who would Jimmy? I don't know who Tatum would defend.
Kyle, you kind of when I said that I thought Boston Miami would be the most interesting, you kind of you thought Toronto Miami I think would be your preferred, and I'd be curious if you list out the matchups, I just feel like Boston Miami is such an even series, and it's just guys who are like aggressive alphas up and down the teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I really just want to see Miami and Toronto because I bet Sam that Miami or Toronto would be either one of those two teams would be the team to make it to the NBA Finals.
To be fair, I didn't disagree with you, but you said in the chat, Sam, I bet you won't bet me this. And my hands are tied when you do that. I have to do it. So I bet it.
I mean, it didn't matter because you picked the other two teams to advance out of the second round anyway.
I only did that because I made that bet already.
Could have had.
Put your money where your mouth is, I always say. I'm not a hedger.
Yes, you are.
I also drafted Patrick Mahomes with my third pick in our fantasy draft.
We'll get off the rails here.
And then tried to trade him 3 times. So
it's up to Seth. It's on for the second pick.
Yeah, so we were just talking about Jimmy Butler as a two-way player. I'm going to take another two-way player here, and somebody I think some people maybe have forgotten about a little bit, recency bias, and we're assuming full health. So I'm going to take Klay Thompson for $4.
Nice.
Seth, in any exercise we do, takes Klay Thompson.
I think Klay Thompson is supremely underrated, especially with like this when we're basically drafting an all-star team. So like if I was drafting a team actually in the NBA, I wouldn't take him as highly because I would favor players who can create their own shot a little bit more than Klay can. But when I know I'm going to be able to get other players to create the offense in this kind of draft, I think he's one of the most valuable pieces to a team you can have because he's such a lethal three-point shooter, great defensive player, and he's beloved in the locker room. So he fits in perfectly on any team.
I like that pick for Seth. I do find it interesting that now that Seth has his own podcast, he no longer gets really upset when people say someone is a two-way player.
Why don't you tell listeners your problem with that phrase?
I've come to accept it a little bit more. I just feel like it's a little bit of a misnomer because everyone plays on both sides of the court. And obviously there are players who are better at being versatile and having like offense and defense. But I just think we could have named it something better.
So I am now the next pick, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't picked in some time, so I assume it's to me. He took Klay Thompson.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm going to go with a little different strategy than you guys have been doing, which I feel like I don't know if I went into this draft thinking. I didn't have a strategy coming to this draft, to be fair, because it's not going to do a mock draft for this or anything, but this is our first time trying this. I'm going to take 2 studs, 2 $7 players, and then fill out the rest of my roster with role players, which I don't feel like anyone else is doing, but it kind of was forced upon me. I mean, I feel like when you ask someone the question, who would you rather have, like, who's the number 1 player you want in a finals game if you're trying to close out the finals? People say either Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James, and they think Kawhi may have passed LeBron. Well, I might as well just have both those players on my team because we all agree that they're the 2 best players to have in the playoffs if you want to win the championship. So why don't I just grab them both? And I think they fit well next to each other. Kawhi's not a great playmaker, but LeBron is. And you put them both at the 3 and the 4, and I think they fit great together. So I'm going to take Kawhi Leonard, and I'm just going to have the 2 best players in the playoffs, and then I'll fill out the rest from there.
And I make an interesting point in support of Sam's pick there. We're all talking about value and stuff, but if I look through this list closely, there is no Laker on this list besides LeBron and AD that cost more than $1.
That's not by mistake.
By taking LeBron and Kawhi, Sam's essentially saying, I'm going to do what the Lakers are doing this year and trust that they can use role players to win a title.
And I think the role players are going to be better than the real Lakers because I'll have Marcus Hezonja.
So I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. And I think, we're looking for playoff success, and who's won the last, LeBron made 8 straight finals and Kawhi won the last one. So I want players that have proven they can do it in the biggest moments.
Mm-hmm. You're up again, Sammy.
Holy shit, I wasn't ready for that. Okay, so I'm up again, huh? Okay, well, I have 2 bigger guys. I could just take Bam and fuck Kyle because I know he wants him.
I was thinking, I was just talking about Bam real quick. I feel like that's another guy with my Anthony Davis theory, right? Bam is a little bit discounted because he's not the offensive player that AD is, but he has that defensive versatility. He can guard smaller guys, and he's not a liability on offense, like Gobert is or something. And Bam's even more versatile on defense than Gobert.
So if I'm thinking about this, I've taken 2 $7 players. That means I have $10 left, and I have 6 roster spots. Correct?
Correct.
6 left, yeah.
So I can get 1 $3 player if I so choose. This is tough. The way you have this, Seth, you did great, honestly.
Thank you.
I know. I'm trying to plan mine out, and I'm struggling with the last 2.
So I feel like the 2 pieces I need left are a center that fits with these players and kind of a defensive guard. Because, we've seen that the Lakers without Avery have struggled on defense, and I don't want that to happen to my team. But I'm looking at these defensive guards. Marcus Smart is on here.
Sure is.
A value at $2.
He honestly might be. The thing that might concern me is, do I want to surround these 2 guys with 3 shooters? I haven't seen Marcus miss a 3 in this playoff, to be fair. I think I'm just going to take Marcus Smart. I want an elite defensive guard, and I'll get a couple great shooters. I mean, Kawhi, of course, we know is an elite shooter. LeBron isn't a slouch. LeBron isn't a slouch on shooting, so I think we'll be fine.
All right. Sam really gave me a punch in the gut there.
If you guys didn't hear Kyle just whisper, I'm going to throw you off when I draft Lou Dort, but he doesn't know I already considered him for number 1 overall.
So, yeah, I was hoping when I took Klay Thompson, I was hoping that Sam would not do the double $7 player.
You fool.
But even though he did, I decided I'm okay with either Kawhi or KD, assuming health. So I'm going to take Kevin Durant here and load up on my own star power. I mean, we all know he's one of the only players to ever outplay LeBron James in a playoff series.
Is he? LeBron's lost how many finals?
Like 2?
Well, I don't think – I mean, unless you count Andre Iguodala, finals MVP.
I think he's free on this list.
So I'm going to take KD. Again, another elite scorer, one of the best of his generation, and also a great defender, and someone who can initiate the offense if I need him to. So, yeah, I feel pretty good starting off a team with AD, Klay, and Kevin Durant, all great on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I said earlier. I'll be curious to see who you end up with at point guard that's going to get all these guys their shots, because obviously KD can create for himself.
Mm-hmm.
None of anyone yet who can create for the others.
For sure.
We're on to me. And so the pieces have fallen perfectly.
You're going to take Bam, aren't you?
Damn straight.
Yeah.
3rd pick, $4.
Bam straight.
Give me Bam.
Nice one.
Adebayo. I mean, I've talked about it countless times. I just think he's the ideal center for the current day NBA and for exactly what I'm like modeling my team around. I would have loved Jokic, however you want to call him, Big Honey. I say it different every time. I think
It's good every time, though.
But I feel like Bam's kind of just a discounted version of him that's more athletic. He can defend any position. He's a really good passer, very underrated in the passing game, I feel. He could score. He could shoot the 3. He doesn't do it much. Neither does Jokic, though. But he can do it. It's in his arsenal. It's in his bag. Obviously, we know how good him and Jimmy play together. Add in Luka to create some additional space for Bam to get some easy layups and dunks under the basket. I don't know how you guys are going to do with the way my team started.
Let me ask you this, because I thought about taking Bam instead of Marcus, but I just felt like you have any concerns about Bam not being able to shoot the three and how you were able to win without a shooting big in today's game, especially in the pick and roll? Because Luka right now has Kristaps as his big, right?
Yeah.
And of course we know Kristaps is an elite 3-point shooter for a big. Do you have any concerns with that transition to Bam, a non-shooter?
No. I mean, like I said, Bam's not – I don't think he's a non-shooter. He's just surrounded by – look at his team. His team is literally just all 3-point shooters. So I don't think he's really needed to do that. But he's shown that he can make threes. He's shown that he can make a mid-range jump shot. And he's good around the rim.
Hey, can he really make threes, though? I mean –
He can, yeah. He's done it before. I don't
one.
know. I'd have to look up what his 3-point percentage is, obviously. But I don't need every single player on my team to shoot greater than like 35-40% from three, especially considering just the versatility that he brings to the rest of the offense, especially on defense. He's going to get easy shots by the rest of the players I put around him under the basket and inside the 3-point line. That's not necessarily needed, but he could do it. And that's the trouble that my team presents.
Okay, but the thing is, he can't do it because he's shooting 0.2 3-point attempts per game and shooting 14%. Maybe in practice he can shoot threes, but he doesn't shoot them during a game. So I don't
because
think
it's
that's
not
true.
needed. Like I'm saying, the way I'm building my team, I don't necessarily need him to be a 3-point shooter.
I think it's interesting because Kyle started off talking about how he wants to build his team similar to the Rockets.
Yeah.
Which I think he still could, but you've got Bam and some might argue Jimmy.
Yeah.
As two
that's kind of what I was
four
saying,
3-point shooters. Maybe Jimmy in the playoffs is a great 3-point shooter. I don't know. But just be interesting. And I mean it's only 3 players, so
I have 5 more to go.
I mean you're already much different than the Rockets, which is fine, but the Rockets.
Right, no, I know. I'm not trying. If I was trying to build the Rockets, I would just draft the Rockets.
Robert Covington.
I would have started with Harden. I would have went with Westbrook second. I would have drafted Westbrook. What am I talking about?
The interesting thing
But like I said, I mentioned you guys. I feel like the Heat are kind of like the watered down Eastern Conference version of the Rockets. They're not the same type of team, but just like the way their team is made up in terms of the versatility and the switching potential on both ends of the floor. And that's really what I was going for.
Yeah, you're more like the Heat than the Rockets, really.
I mean,
he's got 2 Heat players.
Exactly, 2-1, therefore.
He doesn't have any Rockets players. Is Luka.
Luka, I'm putting in his Hardens.
Nick, I'm curious where you fall on where do you put the Heat's chances in the playoffs this year? Because one thing we wanted to kind of do is springboard some of the players that we draft and talk about the current playoffs. And so I think Kyle is all in on the Heat, and I don't really buy it yet. But what do you think, Nick?
Wouldn't say I'm all in because I'm still hesitant to give up on the Bucks despite the absolute trashing we did of Giannis earlier.
Yeah.
And no one drafted Giannis.
I don't think anyone will, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the Heat have looked incredible, so much better than I thought they would look in the playoffs. Because I thought a lot of these things that we're talking about, I thought when it came to Butler not being that strong of a 3-point shooter, I didn't think he would be very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, was I wrong in terms of offensive.
right.
And I also think their role players just – I'm amazed by the culture in Miami and how effective it is with people who are like role players, like Duncan Robinson, and especially I texted you guys about it the other night. Tyler Hero plays like a 5-year vet who's been in a playoff series before, and I think that's just due to the coaching and due to like the type of guys that are down there. So I really do think that Miami scares me as a team that can go all the way to the finals strictly because of their culture, not just because of raw talent.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. And I think I kind of fall with you in the middle of Kyle and Seth, where it's I picked the Bucks in 7, so obviously I think this is going to be a long series, and I think that the Heat are a perfect matchup for the Bucks. But I do think the Bucks are the better team. It remains to be seen, like we said, whether Giannis can take over in those late game moments and create good shots. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I just to follow that up, I picked the Bucks in 6 myself, and now that we're looking at it, I mean, of course, post game one, you say the Bucks have the best player. The Heat probably have the second best player in Jimmy over like Chris Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
Argue that Chris Middleton's the third best player in the series.
Kyle would argue Bam for sure.
How many Bucks are you taking before you take like 5 guys from the Heat?
Right, exactly. Their depth is huge, yeah. But I am trying not to overreact to game one because, as we know, Portland and the Magic were in game one, so we know how that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I think it will be a long series. Who has the next pick?
Nicholas.
Oh,
2 in a row. And let me tell you, after everything we just said with Kyle's team about potentially not being able to get shots because Bam is not a three-point shooter, I'm going to take a non-three-point shooting big man. I'm going to take Domantas Sabonis.
Okay.
Because I think he's a value at 3, and I think it's just another player who is going to defend at a high level and facilitate. Because I already have Jason Tatum and Steph Curry. Excuse me. I want Seth.
Didn't have a budget.
So we already have shooting, and I think his playmaking and his defense will be enough. And I guess we'll be a little small, but the Warriors won with Draymond at the 5, and
yeah.
Sabonis is a similar player to Draymond. So
I like that pick a lot, Nick. And I think we forget about him because he wasn't in these playoffs, but he was their best player, and that's a team that exceeded expectations to get into that 4 spot. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, solid player, good player to facilitate the offense a little bit.
And we haven't
Good
even seen
scorer.
him in the playoffs yet, have we? Or was he there last
He was
year?
there last year. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
I didn't
it was
watch
just
any of the
Oladipo.
games. I
Yeah.
have no Pacers rule.
Right. And then who you got next, Nick?
yeah, so this has been really hard because I look at the board and I want to treat it like a fantasy draft where it's just like, oh my God, look at all these amazing players that are left, but
Mm-hmm.
Budget.
the cash. And I'm looking up and down the like 4-point players, and you got guys like CJ McCollum, Devin Booker, Pascal Siakam, just so many swing guys that I would be totally fine with. And so it's a little bit like a fantasy draft in that I don't think you guys are going to take them. So I'm going to go for a guy who I just think his value is so good for every team. I'm going to rob Seth of another Celtic and take Jaylen Brown.
Nice.
Wow.
I like that pick.
I just
Dirty boy.
took him off my list.
What do you mean?
I mean, I had him as my next pick,
Okay.
and even before Nick said anything, I changed my pick. So I'm not even upset anymore.
Not even upset.
I picked the superior. I'm going to pick a superior player.
Superior to Jaylen Brown.
Impossible.
How could you even find me?
Reunite Jason and Jaylen.
I liked it, Nick.
I mean, they've shown to be an incredible duo together.
Yeah.
He's one of those two-way players, and he can contribute in every offensive category at the same time.
So I feel like this is a good time to talk. Celtics just beat the Raptors, went up 2-0 in the series. I think I'm a little bit biased, slightly.
You don't
But
say.
does anyone else want to put in their feeling about how optimistic you feel about the Celtics right now?
I don't want to say I feel optimistic, mainly because I chose Toronto. But at the same time, in Kyle Lowry's postgame after the game today, they asked him about how the game, went, especially the closing minutes of the game. And he was just like, Marcus Smart hit 5 threes in the fourth quarter. I mean, and just laughed. He was like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It's like Toronto had that game. They were in it the whole time, and they really were down to the last shot. And the only reason that they had the pressure on them to make the last shot to win the game was because one of their role players stepped up and couldn't miss. I mean, it happens. It happens in a lot of NBA games. Someone gets hot, and it's tough to recover from, especially a player that you're not typically, scared of offensively.
Right.
When that player steps up and is going to shoulder the load, and then you have the rest of your star players around you, that's a lot to worry about. So, I mean, down 2-0, not scared. Fred VanVleet's got his family there now, so he's about to catch absolute fire. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I am a little worried, I'm not gonna lie.
As someone who also picked Toronto.
Big mistake.
Yeah, let me go back on yet another one of my picks and say that Not necessarily because I think Boston has played so well, which I do, especially defensively. But the thing that scares me is I don't think Toronto's played that bad, and yet they're still down 0-2.
Game one, they definitely like missed more
Game
shots.
one, they
than
played
normally would.
terribly. Yeah.
But I feel like they played fine this game, and just
we were talking about it earlier. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if it's because there's not a true alpha like when Kawhi was there last year, but Siakam seems to have not necessarily regressed because he's still good, but he's just making really stupid and very like immature plays. For someone that showed such high ceiling last year playing off of Kawhi, and even during the regular season to start the year, he looked like he was going to be an all-star. And just ever since the restart, he's looked so off. All he does is drive mindlessly to the rim, toss the ball up, and hope he gets a foul call. He's not taking smart shots. He's not looking to drive and pass out. He's just trying to draw fouls, and that's not the type of player that he was early in the season, and especially last year with Kawhi. And that's what worries me. I didn't expect him to keep playing. Obviously against Brooklyn, it wasn't necessary for him to be great, but he's not even
Like
playing.
you said, you weren't worried.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the concerns I brought up if you listen to the last podcast, and I'm sure Nick and Matt, you guys did because you're all my two listeners. I brought up the fact that I didn't think
Matt's
the Raptors.
not even listening right now. He's in the room.
Well, he's eating a cookie, so that's fair. I did think that
There's cheers.
I brought up the fact that I don't think the Raptors can win this. Excuse me. You guys are just talking on a podcast.
You couldn't hear me. I said Cheerios.
There are Cheerios and the cookies in case anyone wanted to know. I brought the fact that I don't think the Raptors can win the championship, and I tried to find any historical comp to them, and the only one I could find was the Detroit Pistons from 04-05, who had a great defense, but only one All-NBA player who was third-team All-NBA.
I saw on Twitter, and I meant to bring it up a couple days ago, I think it was, another comp that I think it works even better.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
What would it be? The 94 Bulls, the year after Michael left?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they didn't win the championship.
The year after.
So when he came back, they didn't win the championship that year either.
No, I'm saying, so they won the championship, Michael left.
Yeah.
Right. And
This
then
is
the next
similar
year,
to
Yeah, but they
Kawhi.
didn't win. Though.
Right.
I know, they haven't won this year either.
Kyle's like you're saying.
So you're agreeing
he's
with
not
me.
Yes,
counting.
I just so shocked when Kyle agrees with me that I wasn't ready for it. Yeah, I know. And my concern was that that to win a championship, historically speaking, you need a player who can score in isolation from anywhere on the field, like I was saying about Kawhi. And I don't know if Pascal is that in the playoffs yet, and he hasn't shown to be that, certainly. He might be a little much as the one.
Confirmation bias and all that, but
Yeah.
I think Boston and Miami have Butler. Well, flip that. Miami and Boston have Butler and Tatum, two guys that can get a bucket anytime they want. And the two teams that are down have exactly what you were just talking about, right? Giannis, we think, at the end of a game, can't get a bucket anytime he wants, right? It has to be the right bucket. And Toronto, I don't know who gets their bucket with a minute.
I think that's why I figured that would be. I think that's why I feel so good about the Celtics is that we have multiple players who can get their own shot at any time, and then if any one of them just isn't having a good night, like the other two can step up. So like today, Kemba normally can create his own shot, has incredible like pull-up three ability. He wasn't hitting things today. And then Tatum and Brown, I think especially Brown today was just like pulling up from anywhere. So they can both get their own shot, and Hayward can too if he's healthy. So, and Marcus Smart today could. So.
Yeah,
And he's on my
what the fuck
team
is
now,
that?
so let's continue with the draft so we can finish it
Did
and
Nick
watch
pick
the
two
rest
players
of
yet,
the
or does he
fourth
still
quarter.
have another pick to
No, Jalen was.
I think two.
I'm guessing you're taking Fred.
go? Yeah, my pick is Fred.
Are you going to be assured that he has a baby during the playoffs?
If he doesn't impregnate his wife, I'll find someone else to. Scratch that. I never said it. That sounds terrible.
Oh my God. The family.
That sounded much worse than it
We
sounded. in my head
apologize to the
before I
Van
said it.
Vliet family and everyone related to the Raptors.
However, if that's what needs to be done to ensure that he shoots 53%.
I stand by it.
No, I mean, I talked to you guys about it. Just ever since really last year, Fred's really just been becoming one of those stogie boys. When he's feeling it, he can get a bucket from absolutely anywhere on the court. He's not one of those, he's one of those Dame types where when he's feeling it, he'll pull up from the logo. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And he's got one of those shots that Nick was talking about. It's like he releases it, you think it's going in every time. At least I do. But I mean, he's really frisky on the defensive end too. We saw it the other.
He's got a big ass.
He's got a fat ass.
Those are the two biggest asses in the league.
You're
Yeah,
gonna take Kyle Lowry next?
That's too much
Better
money
get the
for me.
budget.
the big ass boys.
But
Wow.
we saw it the other game. Like, just what was it? It was the fourth quarter. They were trying to claw back. I think they were down maybe like 12-14, and I think there were like 3 possessions in a row where Fred got the ball on the defensive end. He forced a turnover. And it's just like that's the scrappy type of player that he is. That's the scrappy type of player my team's like.
I love that.
And it's the offensive type of player that I want. So
Yeah. So when I was thinking about this next pick, are we ready to? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was going to
Okay.
say.
So I was thinking about answering Nicholas's question about who is going to initiate the offense for me, who's going to get my players the ball in the spot where they can succeed. Fred was on my list, but fortunately I had just crossed him off because he's $1 more expensive than who I'm going to pick, which I think is the perfect person for this, Nick. And he fulfills my strategy and pattern of players who can shoot threes and play elite defense. So I'm going to take close. Malcolm Brogdon.
I was looking at Brogdon hard.
The
myself.
president.
So he's a value at $2, practically a 50-40-90 guy, and plays great defense, and he's just a good game manager. He can set the offense up, get people the ball where they can succeed. So I feel very confident with him as my point guard, especially with all the offensive firepower.
I'm pretty confident to say that I think Brogdon between definitely like the $2 is the best value. And I think he's probably like a top 3 value considering if you group the $3 and $2 together.
Well,
I think he's very underrated. Like
Kyle Schroeder is $2, so.
Nick Schroeder, for everyone listening, is maybe the 100th best player in the league and also a member of Kyle's all-time
he's going to win
team.
the 6th man of the year. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, you take all 5 players from each team. Okay, so I have my back-to-back picks now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I could potentially take a $6 player and then take 3 -$1 players, right?
Yeah.
So I could take Jokic and then have Hassan, Carmelo, and Mario.
Yeah.
I won't though.
You could do whatever you like.
I just wanted to bring it up. I've been flirting with Mario this whole
I
draft.
hope
but
everyone is keeping their own math figured out because
Yeah. So I had 2 $7 players, which is 14, and I had a $2 player, which is 16. So I have $8 left. So I'm gonna take. So as we know, my team is Kawhi, LeBron, and Marcus, all elite defenders. And now I would like 2 shooters at the shooting guard position and at the center position. So I'm gonna take Brook Lopez
Oh, good pick.
because
I like that.
he'll be an elite rim protector for me, as we've seen with the Bucks this year. I mean, he got a little buzz for Defensive Player of the Year, and some were saying,
He was a
who's,
finalist, wasn't he?
yeah, and some were saying who's really, the reason the Bucks defense is so good is it Giannis or Brooks. So I'm happy to have that. And
I don't know who said that.
I found
Who said,
someone.
why is the Bucks defense so good? It's Brooks Lopez.
I found
Brooks
someone in the
Lopez.
darkest alley.
Some people were saying, "Who is Brook Lopez?"
Yeah, and also I feel like, I mean, obviously we see he's not an elite shooter, but he'll shoot the 3 at the 5, which is what I want. And then
He's
I'm gonna take
he's an elite
Last-
3-point shooter for
Last year he was
center.
elite.
last year he was. This year he's shooting like 25%, but he's at least making people think. And he'll shoot the deep ones, which is what I
he's
like.
not
Yeah.
fair.
And then I'll take a $1 player, my first $1 player, and I'm gonna take Duncan Robinson.
I like that a lot.
I thought about taking Seth Curry, but I wanted a little more size on the defensive end. We might have to hide Seth, where I don't think we'll have to hide Duncan as much at the shooting guard position. He at least has some size. We can wrangle some players.
He's got the droopiest face in the NBA too.
Yeah, and he's shooting 45% for 3, and he shoots like 8 a game, and he scores 80% of his points from the 3. So that's exactly what I need as a fit around LeBron and Kawhi. So I'm gonna take him.
All right. I think it comes to Seth, right?
Yeah, so I'm up next. I could take I have enough in the budget to have one $2 player left, and then the rest had to be ones. But I'm going to hold off on that, at least for now. And I'm going to take a $1 player. Shockingly, I'm going to take a Rockets player before Kyle. And I'm going to take PJ Tucker.
Wow.
I like that. It's a good pick.
I love PJ.
Could be.
The scariest man in the NBA.
Yeah, he's Sam took Marcus Smart away from me, who was rightfully mine. So I think PJ gives that kind of little bit of nasty on the defensive end. Elite rebounder, who I love, and I think he'll be in a position to succeed when he doesn't have to play the 5, because I have 2 other 7-footers on the team, or 2 7-footers on the team. PJ's not, obviously. And then he can still hit corner threes. So my whole starting 5 can play hit threes and play defense. So I feel good about that.
I like that pick a lot. I'm going to draft my first Houston Rockets player.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, none other than Bobby Big Dick Covington.
The biggest.
Kind of for all the same reasons Seth just talked about. PJ Tucker, Jesus Christ. Why does it happen to me every single time? He's just, I think, obviously, as I've talked about countless times, he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I think he has one of the highest basketball IQs in the NBA. He's always in the right spot at the right time. He's great on the defense end. Really good three-point shooter. Really good at rebounding and getting the right position when the balls go, when other players shoot. It's just, I think he fits to my team. I'm starting him at power forward. My mentality of having players that can switch and pretty much guard almost every position. He fulfills that. He's got the three-point shooting, like I said. So, Bobby Big Dick, he's home.
Is that your 5th starter?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's up next?
Nick has his last starter right now.
I'm having a tough time, boys. And this is a little off topic, but it's amazing to me. So I was looking up all defensive players because I was trying to think okay, who's a guy that I'm not thinking of who's just an ace defender. And I'm amazed to know, did you know that DeJounte Murray was second team all defense 2 years ago?
Oh, not surprised.
I'm shocked.
I think the ceiling's immense. I think if Pop would commit like he did when the restart happened, he committed to playing his young guys like Deontay 30-plus minutes a game. He has that type of ceiling. He's that type of player offensively and defensively especially, where he could stop. He could guard pretty much any position too. He's not the biggest guy, but his positioning is so good. His hands are so good. I agree with you. I love Deontay.
Kyle, the way you're talking about his positioning, his hands, are you excited over there?
So to get back to my pick, I am going to take a guy $3 value again, who I think. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's undervalued here. It's just that I don't know. He just always seems to be perpetually undervalued, and that's Drew Holiday, because I think he's going to continue to add shooting to my team. He's going to run the team when Steph's on the bench. And speaking of ace defenders, he's incredible. So I'm going to take Drew Holiday.
Love it. And then you're up next for your first bench pick.
I knew you'd say that, you slut. This is where it's getting tough because I'm down to $4 here, and I need 3 players. So I am going to take a guy who solves a little bit of what we were talking about earlier. I want to stretch big and someone who I know is willing to intentionally injure someone in a playoff game. So I'm going to take Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
Kelly Olynyk?
I did not expect him to go in this draft.
Kelly Olynyk?
I mean, if you want to talk about a guy who's going to be an elite three-point shooter, who's going to give his all on the defense, even
Elite?
It won't be him, I hope.
And he's going to round out a bench. He's going to be an 8th man, but I also did not have time to look through other $1 players.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it must be asked, does Kelly deserve to be in the -1 category?
Well, I don't know.
I did not realize
I'll take the cash.
40% from 3 this year.
Great pick.
35 last year and 38% the year before.
He's always been a 3-point shooter. He was on the Celtics.
He's a great 3-point shooter.
And he'll kick someone in the nuts if you need it. All right, who's up?
That's what I'm saying.
Kyle, what are you taking?
Sam still has no
It's
idea
your-
who's picking.
I don't even know where I am.
This next pick is easy to start my bench. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah. The German chocolate cake also comes home. Dennis Schroeder.
Come home to what, Germany?
I mean, I've professed my love countless times of Dennis. Sam has finally begun to admit that he is a star in this league. He said it as recently as yesterday.
I just say that to make you happy.
But, I mean, you want someone to come off the bench and get buckets? Dennis is going to do that. He's honestly, like I said, he's in the running. I think he should win 6th man of the year. I think he led all bench players in scoring this year with like 20 points per game. Whether it's 3-point shooting, whether it's getting to the rim, he's really crafty at the rim, surprisingly. And he's one of those frisky defenders too. He's not afraid to get up in your grill. He's not afraid to go toe to toe. He's not afraid to give you a fist in the dick like PJ got the other day. So
A fist in the dick. In the dick.
That's exactly what I need on my team. That's what I
He's
need.
He's at that Chris Paul nut punch school.
I must be mentioned, if you haven't put your kids to bed, yeah, you probably should. Seth, you're up next.
Yeah, so I'm just going to sound like a broken record here with 3 and D guys, but I'm going to take the one who I think is the best left for the best value, and that is OG Anunoby.
I like that pick.
Great point.
If you haven't watched the Serge Ibaka video with OG where he takes him into a store and dissects his style and dresses him, it's one of the best videos on YouTube. Highly recommend it.
You heard it here first. So I have 3 players left, and I have $5.
Oh my God, that's more than I thought.
I'm strongly considering taking Jamal Murray and then taking Mario Hezonja and Hassan Whiteside and ending with $2. I'm considering it, but I won't though.
You don't have what it takes.
Honestly, it might be worth it to take Jamal and then get Mario. I know I've toyed with this entire podcast, but Mario's going to play 10 minutes for me a game, and I'll lose those minutes by 15 points. No, it's fine. I'm not going to do that.
I think you should.
Okay, so I can basically take 2 $2 players and 1 $1 player. I'd
Or
respect
3 2-1s.
My God, you didn't consider that.
You not
I ain't
consider
even
that.
thought about that. Holy shit. Okay, no. Out of respect to you and yours, I must take my next pick, Marc Gasol, because
Fucking terrible pick.
he's on my fantasy team every year. Well, he's coming off the bench, right?
Fuck Marc Gasol.
We know that. And he's a former all-defensive player who still is elite on that end.
He's washed.
If he cuts his hair, it's fine. If you require him to cut his hair, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that'll be the first thing he does. And he can shoot threes. So that's all I want on my bench. With my next pick, I think I'm going to take Buddy Hield,
Nice.
who is
How about him?
a poor man's Dennis Schroeder, you might say. So this is another elite 3-point shooter, which, as you know, I want on my team. And his defense is passable, I'd say. And so coming off the bench, I don't mind a little spark plug scorer if he's not, he's not an elite defender. But partnering with Mark, I'm fine with that off the bench.
Seth.
All right, so I'm up next. I was considering taking Buddy there. But I think instead, I got a couple ones on my list that I'm tempted by. I still have a budget for one $2 player left. But yeah, screw it. Kyle might be disappointed, but he shares my namesake, so I feel like I have the right to do it. I'm going to take Steph Curry for $1.
Honestly, that's what I meant to do last time. I don't know why I didn't do that.
Instead of who?
You picked the
Instead
superior
of
Curry.
Mark. But I saw Mark's name, and I felt the lust in my heart.
Right, so I have a player who's better than Steph Curry for $1.
Yeah. I was really hoping I was thinking I could grab him in one of these last 2 picks, and I was sorely mistaken.
All right, so who's up now? Kyle?
Yes. With my what is this? My 7th pick. Just looking for a big man to come off the bench. Obviously, versatile, can shoot the three. We've been watching him on TV. I have to go with Jeremy Grant. You know, the Nuggets signed him and are letting him do exactly what he should be doing, which is a 3-and-D big man. That's the perfect type of player that I need on my team to come off the bench, you know, shoot the three and play very good defense, and that's exactly what he is. He was $1.
A rich man's Marc Gasol, I've always said. All right, Nick, what are you picking here? These are your last two picks, right?
Yeah.
These are my last two picks, and would you believe I have no idea because
How much money do you have left, Nick?
I have $3, and the problem with having $3 right now is that means I can't get a $3 player because I need two. And
Wow, that's not true, Nick. Mario Hezonja's on the board.
You can get a $4 player and Mario Hezonja.
Is that
That's
legal, though? Because if you pick Mario after him, you had to pick Mario first.
No, you don't.
Yeah, because you'd be at -$1 then if you do that.
It doesn't matter. Overall, the cap is $24.
You can't go into the negative. That's illegal. So you got to
No,
pick
it's not.
Mario first to get that $1 back.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's picking back to back.
Of course. Semantics.
Spoiler.
That's not how the rules.
the spoiler is I'm certainly not picking Mario.
But Carmelo.
Someone has to.
No, I think here I'm going to go with a bit of a wild card. I'm going to go with Tyler Hero.
Fuck you.
Great pick.
Just, I mean, we've talked about it at length, but the man just has incredibly large balls, and
Biggest balls.
I think apparently, like as a third guard in a rotation, I think he's ready for the playoffs. And behind Steph, I think he'll be fine. So at $1, I like that value. And I apologize for the delay, but this is tough.
It is tough once you come down to those $1 players, isn't it?
We don't have all the $1 really listed out. And so, all right, you know what? I'm going to get some guaranteed playoff scoring. And this might be a bad move because, to be honest, I have enough cards already. But I'm going to use my last $2, and I'm going to get Sweet Lou Will.
Okay.
I like that.
We had a discussion earlier about needing to get a playoff bucket, and Lou Williams is a walking bucket no matter who's guarding him. So I'll take Lou.
I like that pick.
Yeah.
Who's up next? Is it you, Seth?
No, it's me, but now I don't know what I'm going to do because Seth and Tyler are gone.
Seth's right here.
And those were,
You have one pick left, right?
yeah, and those were my last. Those were the two that I had listed. And I need a $1 player.
I don't mean to alarm you, but it's a
Oh,
tight
looks.
game with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so you just pick your last player.
While Kyle looks, I would like to note that this game is incredibly low scoring. 68 with 5.5 minutes to go.
If you didn't hear that, Matt was gloating about predicting the Utah Jazz to win the series, and he was the only one to predict it, despite knowing nothing about basketball.
Despite picking the Knicks in a playoff series.
This is a great story. While Kyle's trying to pick, we all descended our playoff picks to Nick, and Matt happened to pick the New York Knicks in one of the series, who, as we know, are one of the worst teams in the league and did not even come close to making the playoffs. And his reasoning was, I believe, that he thought the Brooklyn Nets were the Knicks.
No. The Clippers logo, I was looking at an image that wasn't very high resolution. So I thought the Clippers logo, like LAC in it, was a B.
Okay, so I don't know if the listeners at home could even hear what Matt was saying, but apparently he thought the Clippers logo was a Brooklyn Nets logo, and then therefore thought it was the Knicks, the Brooklyn Knicks. So
The
therefore,
man's an idiot is the moral of the story.
okay, Kyle, pick your player. Let's go.
I'm making sure that he's not on this list for $2. All right. So since Nick poached my Heat pick of Tyler Hero, I'm going to stick with the Heat and go with none other than Goran Dragic
Damn it, that was going to be my last pick.
to round out my 8 players. Obviously not as elite of three-point shooting as Hero or Seth, but I think he provides a little more value in other offensive categories. I think he's a good facilitator off the bench. He's been really hot from three this playoffs, at least, and since the bubble restarted. And he's just another one of those players that gets it done on the defensive end. So are three of my 8 players Heat players? Yes.
Yeah, you're building the Heat. I love
Well, I was
that.
just going to note, we have 6 players drafted from the Heat right now.
I mean, they're a great
And
team.
nobody thinks that they're going to make it to the finals but me. Sad.
Well,
They've
you
got good role players.
Yeah.
for sure.
all right,
All
Seth, what's your last pick?
Yep, my last pick. I've got $2 left, so I'm gonna take another 3-and-D guy who also has the ability to come off the bench and facilitate the offense, be kind of a secondary playmaker, and that is Bojan Bogdanovic.
I like that a lot.
Boyan.
All right, with the last pick of the inaugural P, short for playoff something.
Auction extravaganza.
Thank you. I will be taking Joe Harris from the Brooklyn Nets,
Oh, wow, that's a great pick.
Who-
Fuck, why didn't I think of Joe?
He was on my list.
who
too,
shoots
but I took
43% from three and has a little size.
Yeah, I really
So
fucked up my last pick.
you want that coming off the bench.
You guys could trade. Sam's going to take Goran.
Want to trade?
I would do that.
I'll trade with you.
Not yet. We'll discuss it offline.
Let's
Okay.
trade. Let's make a trade for the people.
Seth, why don't you list our teams so we can sign off and watch the end of this fourth quarter selfishly?
All right. So Sam's team, he's got Marcus Smart playing point guard, I think. 2-guard Duncan Robinson. Then he's got LeBron and Kawhi at the wings, and Brooke Lopez starting center.
Pretty sure LeBron's going to be the starting point guard.
Yeah, probably.
Ostensibly, yeah.
But offense, defense, whatever.
Yeah.
Off the bench, he's got Marc Gasol, Buddy Hield, and Joe Harris.
You don't want to trade?
My team, I've got Malcolm Brogdon running the point. On the wings, I have Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and PJ Tucker. And I've got Anthony Davis at the 5. Off the bench, OG Anunoby, Seth Curry, Bojan Bogdanovic. Kyle's team, very Heat-centric. He's got Luka running point, Jimmy Butler,
We'll be playing small forward.
small forward, Fred at the 2, Rocco, Robert Covington, also on the wing, and then down low, Bam Adebayo. And he's got Schroeder, Jeremy Grant, Goran Dragic coming off the bench. And Nick's team, he's got Steph Curry. On the wings, the dynamic duo, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday, second guard spot, and Domantas Sabonis at the big. And then off the bench, he's got Olynyk, Hero, and Lou Williams. So that's it.
Honestly, those are pretty evenly matched.
I think so, too.
I'd love to note that I think my team is by far the worst.
At least it's not me this time.
All right.
And I absolutely think that Sam showed that the high dollar values at the start, it just goes with everything we know about basketball. If you have 2 stars, you have a good chance of winning. So
Yeah.
As usual, I like my team and Sam's team the best because we have the same brain. So,
Right. Any parting words from anyone before we watch the rest of the fourth quarter?
I would never have words to part.
All right, good.
It's on the third day, though. What'd he do?
I think you know he rose again.
Damn straight.